We are live. Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and if you guys can't tell, I am joined today by my good friend Corey Draper, otherwise known as the Play Reaction on Twitter, not on YouTube anymore.
Uh,
Corey,
about that.
huh?
About that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever made an official announcement, but I guess this could be it. I'm not running the channel. I'm shutting it down. Shutting it down. Too
And
much work.
until that channel is completely closed off, until I can not look up the Play Reaction on YouTube anymore, I'm still hopeful that you will make a return one of these days.
I'm not deleting the channel, so there's a glimmer of hope that maybe I'll come back around and I'll find some more time. But there's those videos they took a lot of my life,
They
and
did take up a lot of work,
I have
man.
a full-time job and a wife, and so. It's just, I'm going to enjoy. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this football season. Hopefully, enjoy it anyway.
There you have it. So, like I said, guys, you can follow Corey on Twitter, both at the Play Reaction Twitter and then his own personal Twitter as well. Is it Corey Draper, fake Corey Draper, real Corey Draper?
Yeah, my Twitter handle is fake Corey Draper. So
There we go. So,
it's not confusing.
I'll post a link to those sometime during the live stream here, either sometime in between or at the end. But Corey, how you been, man? Literally, like we were just talking about, last time you've been on the channel was March 2nd.
Yeah, geez, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long while. So in the time that you have been gone, there's been Buccaneers training camp. There's been the first two preseason games. I want to get your thoughts first on training camp and whatnot. How has your thoughts been going into this regular season?
For me, the biggest thing, and this is all I really can do since I can't go and visit training camp like you can. For me, it's been all about following the guys who are there. So you and the Petercast guys, and obviously a bunch of the media that's there. And for me, the things I've been looking forward to are the things that have come to fruition. So like things like Noah Spence and Vernon Hargreaves and Ronald Jones, like these guys who we were like, okay, do they actually suck, or has it been the coaching? And positive vibes all around for all those guys. So I feel like those are the things that have like encouraged me the most. And also, I'm just terrified of ACL tears and guys going down for the year, especially when we have the hope of a new coach and a new regime coming in and new systems and all that stuff. I'm just glad everybody's healthy so far. Knock on wood. That's basically been my main focuses.
Is the starter staying healthy?
Yeah. And
No,
then looking at the guys who have been bad under the old systems, hopefully becoming new or good under the new systems.
well, yeah, man, exactly like what you just said. The three guys you highlighted are three of my favorite guys of training camp so far, and going into the first two preseason games. Hargraves has looked absolutely phenomenal, and I think with him, it's a thing that we've seen before.
Yeah,
We've seen Hargraves; he can be good. It's the injuries, you know. That's been the biggest knock on Hargraves. Every time you think he's about to put it together and he's going to be our number one corner, he
hmm
goes down with a season-ending injury. So in the case of him, literally like what you just said, just keep him healthy. And then in
yeah,
the case of guys like Spence and Rojo, in the first talking about Spence, it seems like the move to outside linebacker has been a huge plus in terms of his overall production as a pass rusher so far up to this point. The guy's been looking great. He's been
yeah,
beating a lot of these tackles with speed, and that's been a phenomenal thing to see. And then in the case of Rojo, he's added a bit of weight. He's in the 220s now. He's looking pretty good. Looks like he
mhm.
might be kind of put in as a starter next to Peyton Barber now. So, like what you said, man, those three guys have been looking very good.
Well, and with Noah Spence, like he's finally in the system. Like we've all kind of pontificated. Like we've all been wondering, like, is he in the wrong system? Like, did we draft him to the wrong place? And are we misusing Noah Spence? And so far, obviously, you got to play the games, right? But so far, it's looking like, man, the change of a system and also the change of a coach that believes in you. I mean, what a message that can send, and what a thing that can do for a guy who has just been apparently misused. And we'll see how the season turns out. But I'm hopeful.
Yeah, big confidence thing with Rojo, and that's been one of the big stories for him is his
Yeah,
confidence. And even people in the Buccaneers organization have been saying, like guys like Jameis and Bruce Arians and whatnot, confidence. His confidence is good. His confidence is really good. Rojo's looking really confident.
yeah,
That's been such a big thing for him this offseason with Rojo is just making him more comfortable,
yeah.
So that's been a very, very good thing to see. Maybe we finally see him justify that second round draft pick. I remember, man, you were a little bit on the fence about that Rojo pick. So now hopefully we can get more into the positives here with him.
I was, man. I was on the fence, and I'm still a little on the fence. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I really am encouraged, and I hope that like he turns into the next, Alvin Kamara or whatever. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
I would also like to say thank you everybody for commenting on the haircut. Greatly appreciated. Corey, you're covered up by a hat right now.
I also got a haircut, but I'm covering it up.
There
So
we go. Well, we have very similar haircuts. I know a lot of people have said in the past that we look very similar, minus the beard, of course.
yeah,
But
you gotta start growing, man.
I know I can't do it. I can't. I've tried. I can't do it. It looks awful. But I want to, aside from those big players that we just mentioned right now, I want to talk a little bit more about the backup, so to speak, because I've seen the chat they're mentioning guys like Devontae Bond, and among other certain types of guys as well. Jordan Whitehead as well. He's more of a starter, but who have been some of more the rotational types of guys who have been surprising you lately in training camp in the first two preseason games?
Well, for me, and since I haven't been able to really observe training camp, I can only go off what guys have been talking about. But really the guy that's freshest in my mind right now, just based on watching their most recent preseason game, has been like Kevin Minter. Just really stood out,
Mm-hmm.
which was like, where did that come from? I don't know. He just had a great game, or what? But I think what we're seeing is almost like all the linebackers are showing up. It's like and maybe it's a system thing, maybe it's a Todd Bowles thing, but just and this is beyond Devin White or Levante's not even playing, so you're seeing getting a look at Shaq Barrett and all the guys under him, and it's looking good. This the pass rush, like this, the numbers aren't, they're kind of there, they're not dominating by any stretch, but what I'm reading from training camp combined with what I'm seeing in preseason, I'm kind of excited about the linebacking core and really the front seven.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like what you said, Kevin Minter is one of my guys. Okay, on that
Yeah.
defensive side of the ball, I really like Kevin Minter. First two preseason games, he's come in. The guy's been a sure tackling force. Corey, I know that's a big thing with you, tackling. I know that's
Yes.
a really big thing with you is missed tackles. Like,
Yeah.
drives you crazy.
Yep.
You know,
I mean, I like, well, and that's too. So I remember when we talked back when Arians was hired, I feel like we mentioned this, like, the mention of how the training camps under Cutter were soft. And, we're like, Bruce Arians will hopefully bring in, a normal training camp at least. And that's what we've seen. I mean, a lot of guys getting a lot of reps and people hitting people.
yeah.
So I really think that'll pay dividends. But so far, so good.
Yeah, yeah, so like what you just said, the linebacker cores looked absolutely phenomenal. Minter, Devontae Bond, Jack Sitchie coming off of ACL with surgery has looked
Yeah.
very, very good. Corey Nelson, kind of a guy not a lot of people have talked about. He's been making a few plays in the run game as well. Those are just the interior linebackers, and I'm not even talking about our starters. Devin White, Levante David, Dayon
Mhm.
Buchanan, you can kind of classify him almost as a starter as well. He's out there a lot of the time with the starters. He's also looked good.
Yeah.
And then you take it from the inside, you move to the exterior, your outside pass rushing linebackers, and it gets just as good almost. You have Carl Nassib, Noah Spence, Shaq Barrett. Those three guys, have looked absolutely great. Noah Spence, Shaq Barrett, they're two of my favorite guys on this Buccaneers defense right now. Going a little bit deeper then into the outside guys, you have Damone Harris, who's definitely been impressing these past couple of preseason games. Patrick O'Connor, who's been with the team for the past couple of years, he's looked very good as well. It just seems like this is an insanely deep, linebacking core, period, inside and outside.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I've been very happy with that defensive line. I'm gonna be honest, Corey. I was a little scared at first coming into this offseason Okay, coming into this training camp and preseason, whatever have you, I was a little bit worried because obviously we brought in Sue and we had Vita Vea, and those were a very solid combination at that defensive line. But I was a little bit worried about the depth. I was a little bit worried about that other starting defensive end position. My concerns have been pretty alleviated up to this point. Raheem Nunez-Roche, very strong in the run game. He's looked very, very good so far. Jeremiah Ledbetter, same thing. He's looked very good. Both those guys are pushing William Golston for that starting other defensive end spot. And fair credit to Golston, he's looked pretty good in the run game in his own right as well. But you have those three guys right now who have looked very, very solid. Bo Allen's getting some snaps here, there. He's been looking pretty good as well. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, that's without JPP. That's without Vita Vea in there. And these guys, I mean, you don't want to say those injuries are good, and they're not by any stretch. But these guys are getting a lot of reps, and they're getting a lot of playing time. And again, I do think it's a system thing more than anything. And I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping that everybody sees the difference coaching makes. And this is me too. I mean, for me, it's been a hypothesis thing. I really think coaching makes that much of a difference, and I really feel like our roster has not been as bad as everybody has been claiming it's been. Everybody seems to forget that 2 years ago we were supposed to light the world on fire. It was our Hard Knocks year. We had everybody, all these great players on paper, and we obviously crapped the bed. And honestly, that roster hasn't changed too much. In fact, it's gotten better over the last couple of years. And really the conclusion I draw, I really do think it comes to coaching. And so you're starting to see these guys who were fringe players now suddenly stepping up. And I really do think that the coaching is helping and it matters. So especially, with defensive line, it's encouraging seeing these guys do well in spite of not having our best players on the line right now for the most part.
Yeah, exactly what you said, man. Some of these players that Bucs fans have soured on the past couple of years, guys like Bo Allen, William Golston, Noah Spence, Devontae Bond, is fans that, players that fans were really, take him or leave him. It doesn't really matter. It's not like they're doing a lot for us. Anyway, they're going out there. They're making plays now. And one of the big reasons, because Todd Bowles is blitzing the hell out of everybody.
Yeah, it's great.
It's insane. It's insane. I know I saw on Twitter last night, or a couple nights ago during the Miami Dolphins game, watch Ryan Griffin. A lot of Bucs fans who were more pessimistic about the situation were saying Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to come in here. He's going to absolutely shred our defense. He got the hell blitzed out of him and couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So I think that this scheme that Todd Bowles has, it benefits everybody. Okay, this defense has looked really good. I know that everybody was a little bit I don't know about this during preseason week 1 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, but preseason week 2, that was the best I've seen this defense look in a long time.
Yeah. Well, granted, we were playing the Dolphins, who may be one of the worst teams this year, but yeah.
Well, fair credit. Yes, it is the Miami Dolphins, and yes, it is the backups. But, still, it's just nice to see some good defense from the Buccaneers again. You know what I mean? And not only does that help out the defensive line and the linebackers, that also helps out what the Buccaneers have to be a very young secondary right now. Has there been anybody in that secondary group that's impressed you? Because I will say there have been some injuries both at the cornerback and safety position. So who there has stood out to you? I know Jordan Whitehead's a big one. Vernon Hargreaves.
Yeah, Whitehead was the first guy that came to mind. Also Jamel Dean showed up in the most recent preseason game, and that was encouraging as well. And it's hard to gauge, though, when they're playing against third and fourth stringers, especially when it came to Dean, when he started showing up. It was kind of late in the game. But, I mean, Hargreaves, we mentioned him earlier. I'm a Gator guy, so I, of course, am rooting for Hargreaves because not only is he a Gator, but he's a Buccaneer. And I have really hoped that his struggles have been just stretching as far back as, 2 or 3 years ago when he had the off year and then everybody was throwing him under the bus, and then he got injured 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And both times he got injured, it was during a game in which he was playing lights out. but everybody seems to forget that and just remembers that how he was struggling. And I've been really thinking that, everybody had been writing off Vernon. When we drafted these corners, everybody's like, oh, Vernon's going to be fourth string. I didn't believe that for a bit. I really do think he's a talented player. Is he going to be a top 5 corner? Maybe not, probably not. I do think he has the ceiling of being one, but I know at the very least he's not as bad as everybody's been saying he is, and I think it's showing too. Having the support of a coaching staff that knows his talent and says, yeah, he's our guy, and he's a part of this team, and we believe in him. I think that spoke leaps and bounds into Vernon's confidence, and he's playing like that. Now, again, of course, he's not going to play perfect. He's going to blow coverages, and he's a press guy, and he's going to get burned. But I think that's fine because he has a better supporting cast around him, and he's got better coaches. And Carlton Davis, obviously, I love seeing him out there. MJ Stewart showed out a little bit. Still haven't seen Murphy Bunting show up, but I'm still waiting on that. I remember the story that Scott Reynolds keeps talking about at Pewter Report with Rondé Barber, his first year, how it was just so miserable. And imagining if Rondé had the year he had his first year now in the Twitter world and the culture of win now or you do good in your first year or you're terrible and you should never play football again. How many people would be just throwing Rondé under the bus, and then he ends up obviously being one of the best players you've ever had. So I'm never going to throw anybody under the bus if they're within their first 3 years. And obviously, I hold on hope with Vernon. So with the rest of our corners, I'm going to hold out that hope too. So
yeah, I completely understand that. I do want to say Carlton Davis, Vernon Hargreaves. I've been loving them so far. They've done some really, really good things. Vernon Hargreaves, we kind of knew he always had that in him. Carlton Davis building on that momentum that he had from last year, and some of the rookies, Jamel Dean, obviously, first time he's coming in healthy, he's getting an interception. That looks awesome. That's really encouraging. You also have Sean Murphy Bunting, who even Bruce Arians said that he's been there. He hasn't done anything too terribly bad, but he hasn't done anything too terribly great. We're waiting for him to come in, but I feel like that now we have so much invested in the cornerback position and just our depth is so much better built that we can afford to wait and let some of these guys develop a little bit more rather than throwing them into the fire, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure.
And I do real quick want to take a quick turn to the chat real quick because they're saying, what's up, Corey? Corey, how you been? A lot of people have missed you, Corey. A lot of people Rhett from the Cannon Fire podcast, Griffin Greatness on Instagram, Ken, Willie, Kenneth, among many others. I'm sorry if I didn't get you there, but there you have it, Corey. Looks like people want you to come back, Corey, myself included.
Hey, I never left. I am on Twitter. I'm pretty active on Twitter and obviously getting in arguments with people. So, because that's what you do on Twitter.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, I'll keep that account alive, and that's where I will talk Bucs football. So follow me on Twitter, and we'll keep the conversations going.
If you want to do me a favor, Corey, can you get in the chat and put your Twitter in there, by the way, if you would please?
It's at the player reaction. It's not too difficult.
I did want to ask you real quick here, shifting from the defensive side of the ball to the offensive side of the ball. Again, talking about training camp, talking about those first 2 preseason games. Who's jumped out to you on the offensive side of the ball now? Because we just talked a load on the defensive side.
Yeah, we mentioned Rojo. He looks sharp, man. Mm-hmm. He's hitting the backfield. Jameis looks sharp. It's hard for him. It's hard to gauge his performance when he's only having one drive at a time. Mm-hmm. Definitely hoping to see more coming up in this preseason game. Trying to go down the list here. I mean, obviously the wide receivers. It's funny. I heard somebody. I don't know if you're familiar with the Fantasy Footballers podcast.
I've heard of it. Yes.
There was one. They were talking about the Bucs, and one of the guys was talking about how the Bucs are thin at wide receiver, and it's because he knows Mike Evans and he knows Chris Godwin, and obviously Humphreys left and Djax left. So he was like, "Oh, well, they're just thin. If one of them goes down, they're gonna have a poor receiving core." And for me, in the back of my mind, it's like I understand why he's saying that, but that's not true. It's not true. I think our wide receivers are great. I mean, it may not be as strong as a Deshaun Jackson and Adam Humphreys, and they're super young, and they're no names now, but Adam Humphreys was a no name a few years ago. And so I really like our receiving core. I know they had a couple of drops, but Justin Watson, I think, looked great in the first preseason game. Brashad Perriman, I've always been kind of on the fence about. He's had hands issues, but he's got the speed. I would really love to see Jameis connect with him on a deep ball at some point, but maybe it's the Deshaun Jackson thing over again. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll tell you what right now, man. Perriman's one of my top favorite guys
Yeah,
in terms of rotational or on that wide receiver core. I love Perriman. I absolutely love him. I think he's doing some good things.
I think they're all capable. I really think they're all capable. And the guys behind, the ones fighting for the fifth spot, as Bruce Arians said, Scotty. Well, he's injured, but Bobo and Spencer Schnell even showing up out of nowhere. That was kind of cool in that first game. I think we're pretty solid. I mean, down to number 5. Like it would be okay if we lost one of our top 2 guys. I think.
It was funny before I called you here. I listened to one of Bruce's press conferences talking about the wide receiving core, and a couple of things that he said to me were very interesting. Was obviously that fifth wide receiver spot, and then he even didn't go as far to say that Justin Watson was the lock for the 4th wide receiver spot.
Yeah.
So I really think that after Brashad Perriman, there's a lot of fluidity for that 4th, 5th. It didn't even sound like Bruce alluded to there being a 6th wide receiver spot.
No, I think he's going to keep 5 because he keeps talking about the 5th spot, as if it's the last spot. And then also that quote when he's talking about Watson, it's almost kind of like I think Watson's a lock for number 4. And I just think Bruce Arians doesn't want to crown him because that's not who he is. He wants Watson to continue fighting and would never say publicly, oh yeah, Watson's our guy. Like he wants him to. He's like, I just don't think he would say that out loud, but I'm pretty sure Watson's a lock.
I feel you. And then another thing that really blew my mind, not blew my mind, but I was happy to hear it was he has a nickname for Spencer Schnell. He calls him Snelly. And if that doesn't lock him for that 5th wide receiver spot, I don't know what will.
At the very least, practice squad.
Right, exactly. Because you can't just nickname a guy and then not give him something.
Right.
I mean, come on now. But actually, Rhett from the Cannon Fire podcast asked this question, and it kind of alludes a little bit more to what you just talked about with the 5, only keeping 5 wide receivers, was do we think that, or what do we think about Tanner Hudson potentially beating out Anthony Auclair for that 3rd tight end spot?
I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. I mean, they're both in a new system, so it's not like Auclair has tenure or anything like that. I liked what Tanner Hudson did as a receiver. I from what I'm reading and hearing, he's not a great blocker. So having guys like Cameron Brate already on the roster, it makes you wonder, like, oh, are we just gonna have a bunch of receiving tight ends? OJ obviously is a great passer, but we need to use him, or a great pass blocker, but we need to use him in the receiving game. So I think it might come down to who's a better blocker there. But hey, you never know. I mean, if Hudson keeps showing out and comes out in the 3rd preseason game and 4th preseason game and just makes a name for himself, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility.
Well, and I've seen people say that Hudson can't block. Hudson can't block. I don't know if you know this, Corey. I'm on a movement, okay? I'm on a Tanner Hudson for tight end 3 movement.
Yeah?
The guy's look phenomenal. I've seen him in practice. He catches everything in practice. He catches everything in the games. The guy can catch. Even to the point where you have some Buccaneers media outlets saying, should we trade Cameron Brate? Which we shouldn't. But the point I'm trying to make is that the guy's got hands, okay? And I think that his blocking isn't as bad as what people are saying it to be, okay? And kind of something I want to propose to you right now is, obviously, BA, he's kind of talking about only keeping 5 wide receivers, and the Buccaneers have a lot of receiving tight ends. Could this potentially lead to the Buccaneers keeping all 4 of them?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I can see it. Definitely.
Okay, because
we'll probably be using our tight ends a lot with OJ and Cam in there. So it would make sense to me to essentially have a backup for each guy, just in case. And I mean, it makes 100% for me. It makes 100% sense.
Yeah, because I think that you've got kind of the more, obviously Brate's pretty decent at blocking, all things considered. He's not terrible. But I think that you have obviously kind of the more blocking kind of guy behind OJ Howard. That'd be Anthony Auclair. And then you have kind of the more receiving type of guy. That would be Tanner Hudson behind Cameron Brate. Bruce Arians has even said he wants to use a lot of 2 tight end sets. Is that something you would be personally okay with, having 5 wide receivers and 4 tight ends, or would you rather go the different way, having 6 wide receivers and 3 tight ends?
I'm not going to pretend I know more football than Bruce Arians. So
Yeah.
I definitely defer to them there. And, especially with OJ, his versatility. You can split him out wide. I put him in a slot. You could do a lot of stuff with OJ just because of how big and crazy athletic he is. So, again, it makes sense to me. And I would not, whichever way they go, I'm just going to trust them on that one.
Yeah. And Corey, another player I want to ask you about real quick is Dare Ogunbowale. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to mention him.
Big guy. He's going up against Andre Ellington right now for that 3rd running back spot. He has gained a ton of momentum. He has the lead at this point, in my opinion, not just because of his running ability and somewhat of a little bit of his receiving ability, but the guy can pass block. And that's something that we did not see with Andre Ellington in that first preseason game. What are your thoughts on that position battle right now? Do you think the Buccaneers carry 3 running backs, 4 running backs? What do you think about Dare Ogunbowale so far?
Ogunbowale needs to be on the team. Whether it's number 3 or number 4, he needs to be on the team. I think he is. He from what I'm reading in training camp and also how he's looked these last 2 games, he just looks different and looks way better than Ellington. Honestly, I think the only reason we would keep Ellington is just because of the trust factor with Bruce. We saw it. We've seen it with previous coaches. They just hold on to their guy. It's like Jacquizz Rodgers with Dirk. So it's just one of those things that, like, I could see Ellington staying, but if he does, Dare better still be on the roster, because I think he's earned it, at least to this point.
Right. I also don't think that if he, I don't think you can keep Dare Ogunbowale on your practice squad. I think he'd get signed to an active roster.
Right.
So that's definitely something you got to consider if you're Bruce Arians and whatnot. And he's looked so balanced. He's looking like a pretty good rotational type of change of pace back right now. Which I've been insanely impressed with. And I think that Andre Ellington, he's good in a certain capacity. He's pretty good at receiving. Running the ball, he's been a little bit rough. Pass blocking, he's been absolutely atrocious. So I think I agree with you here in terms of Dare Ogunbowale having pretty much locking down that 3rd running back spot right now. Bruce has been gushing about him, too, ever since he first came to the team. He mentioned Dare, even as... it all started off as Dare could be a return option, was what Bruce was saying at first. And now it's transformed as to Dare's just a good running back, So very, very good. Another position group I want to talk to you about real quick is, again, this has been another pretty intense battle going on, is Blaine Gabbert versus Ryan Griffin. Big one. I see the chat talking a lot about Ryan Griffin right now. What are your thoughts on Ryan Griffin? Because he's been with the team for, I think this is his 4th year, 4th or 5th.
It's maybe I've lost count.
Yeah,
he's been with us for a while.
What are your thoughts on that? Because that's, what's going on here between Gabbert and Griffin? Because Griffin's been killing it in the preseason so far.
Yeah, with Griffin, the kind of argument for keeping him is he was in Cutter's system this whole time. Like, he's a backup and hadn't played an NFL snap, but he knew the system inside and out. But now, again, both of them are going into a new system. Actually, he's going into a new system, and Blaine Gabbert already knows the Arians system a little bit. So, but that said, I am not a Gabbert fan, never have been. I'm a little salty because I went to a game where we played Jacksonville, and he was in Jacksonville and destroyed us like 42-14 because our defense was, our defense, and that was like the only good game he ever had. And I don't think he's a good player. And honestly, it's tough because you have seen Blaine Gabbert play in an NFL game, and you haven't seen Griffin play against starting caliber defenders. So Griffin looks good, but what does that mean? I wouldn't blame the coaching staff for going for experience. I've heard that Arians likes to keep 3 QBs, so we might be here yet again paying Ryan Griffin a lot of money to sit on the bench. Man, talk about a koosh job. Like, man, he has banked on not playing football.
The guy never even asked to dress for football games usually. He's not active, for half the time. So
right.
it's definitely good. Like what so I take it you're not a fan of the gift of Gabbert. That's fine.
Either way, Jameis goes down, we're screwed. I mean, honestly,
That's
hey,
pretty accurate. Yeah.
either way, if Jameis goes down, we're screwed, and that's the drawback of not putting someone behind him, like a Fitzpatrick, that could take over his job. So I get the move, and it's just, man, let's say our prayers every Sunday. And
There you go.
Jameis has been pretty, again, knock on wood, man. Please, guys, don't blame me when all of our guys get injured. But Jameis has been fairly healthy for most of his career, so hopefully that just holds out.
The last thing I want to talk about here, and then we'll have to sign off. But I want to talk about the kicking situation, Corey.
Oh yeah,
Lord, we have talked about this for 2.5 years, 3 years, whatever have you. What
finally,
do you think?
we talk about kicking.
We can finally positively talk about kicking. You have Cairo Santos, you have Matt Gay. What's going on? This is foreign to us.
Yeah, suddenly we have two kickers that are in a battle because they're both making field goals, which is fantastic, as opposed to two of them kind of making them, kind of missing them. So I'm happy. I think we didn't we pay Santos a lot of money? Like, and that's why I was confused about drafting Gay. But hey, I'm glad we had him here and the competition. And honestly, Gay gets the job, if you ask me.
Yeah.
We have the draft capital put into him. He's young. He's cheap. Let's just go with him. And man, that leg, just pretty incredible. Seeing the training camp videos and then seeing him kick a very long field goal at Heinz Field. I mean, I've been impressed. So I mean, it makes total sense to just go with Gay here.
Yeah, man. Like I said, okay, both of them have been doing absolutely great. Like what you said, both of them have been doing absolutely great. They've been nailing. Remember whenever Nick Folk and Roberto Aguayo were going at it, and it was to see, it wasn't who's making all their kicks. It was who's missing the least amount of kicks. And
yeah.
I know it sounds like a similar thing, but it was like you had them missing half their kicks every practice.
Yeah.
Legitimately. And now we're in a situation where they're going 8 for 8, 9 for 9 in practice. In the training camp videos, in the live streams that I was able to do, Matt Gay was hitting 60-yarders almost every practice. He's hit a 60-yarder, a 61-yarder, 59-yarder, 63-yarder. He's nailing them. 55-yarder in Heinz Field, and is one of the longest, if not, I believe it is the longest field goal in Heinz Field history.
Right. Yeah, one of the longest. And the thing about his kicks that he's making, too, even the ones in game, people are saying it would have been good, 5 yards back or 10 yards back. I mean, he's making them and not just barely making them, all these long field goals. So
right.
It's promising.
And I saw some people criticize, well, he can't hit the short ones. From what I've seen, he's honestly been better than he has been worse in terms of hitting the short ones. I don't think it's a Kyle Brazinda situation. Where he can nail a 55-yarder, but if you put him up at the 30, he will not get it for you.
Right. Yeah.
I think that Matt Gay is one of the best. Well, hold on. I think Matt Gay is one of the best shots we have at kicker now in a little bit. I'm excited to see him play. Do you think that they could possibly trade Cairo Santos? Because I just saw recently the Baltimore Ravens traded away their backup kicker to the Minnesota Vikings for a 5th-round draft pick.
I would have said no, but man, if we can convince some team, I mean, why not? Let's throw Santos out there for the next 2, have him put on a display for everybody to see, and then see if we can make some phone calls. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I've even seen people say, well, maybe the Bucs could carry 2 kickers, something like that. What are your thoughts on that, real quick? No.
No, let's not do that.
Okay, that's fine. So. There you have it, Corey. A little bit of a short show today, but I do want to appreciate you for coming on. I definitely want to have you on more as we get going here with the rest of the preseason and the regular season. For those of you who don't know, Corey, former YouTuber, current Twitter all-star. You can follow him at The Play Reaction on Twitter. You can go subscribe to his YouTube channel if you want at The Play Reaction, because he is making a comeback one of these days, Corey. Do you have any... Sorry?
Maybe someday.
Maybe someday. Corey, do you have any final words here before we go ahead and sign off?
Number one, I am super excited for the season. Somehow every year this team makes me want to believe in them, and here we are again. I really hope this is finally the year they don't trash my dreams, but we'll see. And Also, we didn't get to the offensive line, but that's the one place I'm scared. I'll just sort of put that out there.
Quick,
I'm very concerned.
quick note on that.
Yeah.
Starting offensive line, good. Backup offensive line, not good.
Yeah. And offensive linemen get hurt because they play a lot. So I'm scared.
And Bruce even made a note of this today. He said, waiver wires, man. Like, to paraphrase, waiver wires. That's what it's going to be, you know?
Yep.
Some of the guys that we've had at backup left tackle have been just not good. Cole Bouger, not good. Not a fan of Cole Bouger's, but it sounds like Bruce kind of has a plan, waiver wire system. We've seen some great players come to the Buccaneers off the waiver wire system. Look at Carl Nassib. That's a lot of people's shining example. So hopefully we can get some good backup linemen in here. I like Nate Trail in the backup center, Earl Watford the backup guard. And you know what, Corey? I'm going to say it. Caleb Benenoch has not looked as god-awful as he did at right guard as he does right now at right tackle.
That's something.
That is certainly something. But Corey, again, I want to thank you for coming on. I plan on having you on here for longer periods in the very, 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 very near future. Again, everybody go follow Corey Draper at The Play Reaction on Twitter. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel. He's making a comeback one of these days. And Corey, again, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks, James. Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
And guys, until the next video or the next live stream, I'll see you in the next one. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.